Good evening, my peoples. It's your boy Solace. I want to give y'all this quick, nice little lesson. This is very deep. This is the journey of the sperm, which is you. Now, I'm going to break down the ascent in life and life forms that you will live, literally. So, I'm going to need for all of y'all to empty your minds. Trust me, if you listen, it will all resonate. It will not go against anything you believe in or have ever heard. It's not going to go against that. I'm going to use a little bit of what scientists have discovered this far about outer space and sperm and babies. I'm going to use a little bit of what they know. And hopefully that helps y'all to grasp an understanding of what we truly are and what God truly is, and how religion will only enslave you. Now, I'm going to take y'all on the journey of the sperm. Now, keep in mind, the sperm is you, the spirit, the soul, whatever we like to call it. That is the sperm, and that is you. The body is nothing more than the egg. You have to remember, the sperm went into the egg. The egg is not the sperm. Now, let's start on your journey as the sperm into what you will become. Okay, you started in your veil of darkness, which is the equivalent to your death. So remember that word. Now, you start in your veil of darkness. Now, I wrote it down for y'all. So this is paper. So sometimes I'm going to look to the side. But don't get lost. Because there's so much, I don't want to lose focus or lose point of what I'm talking about. Now, you start in the veil of darkness, which is what we call death. Now, this is your ascent from the conscious being that you came from. Now, you're sperm at this point. You find the egg, which is your body, and now you go through the fallopian tube stage. And then you live your life as a fetus. And you go through the life that a fetus lives. So you go through the zygote period. You go through the embryo period. You go through the fetus period. And then you complete being a fetus and you ascend from being a fetus and go through the veil of darkness period, which is what we call death. And then you pretty much go through the birth process, which is the water breaking and all of that. So you ascend from the fetus, go through the veil of darkness, which is the birthing process, and then you become a man. And you live your life as a man. And you go from a baby to a child to an adult. And then you ascend from the body, which is the veil of darkness, or death, and you go through the planetesimal process. Now, this is you ascending from the body to becoming an earth or a planet. Stay with me. Don't get lost, Sally. Just stay with me. Now, you go through the planetesimal process, which is a whole bunch of specks of dust. Then they begin to stick together and create chunks. Then these chunks stick together to create what scientists call a protoplanet. And then the protoplanet explodes or condenses or whatever it does, and it becomes the planet. And then the planet lives the life of a planet, the same way a man lives the life of a man and goes from baby child to an adult. Same way a fetus lives the life of a fetus and goes from zygote embryo to a fetus. So you live the life of a planet and you go through the cratering period, which is where the veins and the innards develop. You go through the flooding period, where the water and oceans and all these things. Then you go through the surface evolution period, and you live the existence of a planet, which is a living deity, and you live that existence. And then you ascend from a planet, and you go through your veil of darkness, which is what we call death. And during that process, you have the nebula process. And you go through the nebula process, which is the same as you going through the fetus process. When you went from a zygote embryo, same process. So now you go through the nebula process, and you go through the emission, through the cluster, through the disperse. And then you are born the same way you are born when you go from zygote, embryo to fetus, and then you're born as a baby man. So you go through that process of the emission, the cluster, the disperse. See, this is the process of the nebula, which is the veil of darkness. Nebula is the science word, but this is how I'm trying to break it down to y'all. So when you're in that veil of darkness, which is that nebula process period, you will go through the emission, cluster, disperse, and then be born as a baby star or a newborn star. And you will live your life as a star. And you will go as a red giant to a red dwarf to a white dwarf. Same way you went from a baby to a child to a man. Then when you get to the point of a white dwarf, you will ascend from a star and go to your veil of darkness, which is your death. And that process would be the supernova process, which is the death of a star when it explodes or whatever. And then you go through that whole existence. Mind you, this is still that same sperm. You go through that whole process. You go to become a neutron star. And then neutron stars become black holes. Now you have to understand, a black hole is God. And this is where that concept of God comes from, that we loosely run around with, but we don't understand. See, a black hole is God, and this is when your sperm, energy, light, soul, whatever you want to call it, has lived through all its life forms that I just broke down to you. You have lived through all of that, and now you return to the source of all, which I like to call God, which is a black motherfucking hole. Pardon my language, I'm working on that. You turn into a black hole. Now, you gotta understand, that's a living, literal deity. Everything I just broke down are living beings, just like you. So you have to stay focused on that. I'm gonna break that down at the end of this, but I just want y'all to stay with me. So now, you have to understand when I'm breaking all of this down, it's a reason for that. Because when you're becoming a star and you go through that nebula process, or that nebula period, where you go through the emission, the cluster, and then the disperse, you have a thing called dark nebula. This is what scientists call it. Now, this is basically what I was telling y'all when I said a newborn spirit can be born into darkness and never become a star. And y'all have to understand that. It may not ascend to become a star. This shit is deep. It's just like if a man doesn't understand that he is a man or he has Alzheimer's and he can't connect the last 10 years to this 10 years to understand that you was a baby, then you was a man. Just imagine if you lost track of that, the situation you would be in mentally. See, this is why you remember being a baby. You have thoughts from being a baby, but you don't have thoughts from when you was a fetus, because you went through that veil of darkness period that I broke down to y'all. And that's when you was born into being a baby. So that's what the ascent is. Gaining knowledge into the sperm so it grows in consciousness and energy, literally. And this is how you learn to connect the dots. So you figure by the time you become a planet, you should be in a knowledge or an enlightenment at that stage and level to say, okay, I know and I understand now that I was started as that sperm. And this is how all life starts, as the primordial soup. And this is how all things and everything started. from a black hole as primordial soup are unphysical gases and energies mingling together to become that primordial soup. The same way your conscious energy and gases that make up your spirit are your sperm. That's what created that first piece of sperm or primordial soup that you may jerk out or whatever you like to do. I don't know. That's your business. But that's the same thing in liken to that. So you got to understand. You have to get to a level where you understand, okay, it all started from the primordial soup, which is the sperm, and that is me. It takes many lives and life forms of ascension to grasp that. Some never grasp that. They return to the all, the black hole, never grasping that. And then you keep going. This is deep. Y'all have to grasp this. This is real. I tell y'all real shit. Now, let me give you the scientist's definition of what nebula is. It's a luminous yoke of dust. They say cloud, but at the end of the day, they're not physically touching the cloud. But if you look at a cloud is likened to yolk. So I call it yolk, just like sperm is just like yolk. So it's a luminous yolk of dust and gas. If you look at sperms, the same thing. It just isn't that luminous. But it does have some sort of a color light to it. If you really look at sperm. So you have to understand, man, that's you in your raw basic form. And that sperm is what you're looking at now, inside of your egg. Now, I want to break down a moon in y'all. Because you can become a moon, which is a slave planet. So you can be born out of this body into a veil of darkness. Come out of that veil of darkness and be what they would call dark nebula. Basically a dark spirit that can ascend into a goddamn star. Because you lost. You know, fuck around and turn into a moon. Slave planet. This is what I call a spiritual being born into this life with no understanding of anything, just unknown. This is how you become a slave without even knowing. You have men that walk the earth like this now, so you know this is not bullshit. So when you look up and see a moon, that is a man who ascended in his life, but didn't fully gain the knowledge he should have, and he was able to be enslaved by another spiritual being liking to him, but he has no conscience of that. So he is enslaved to that being. Circles that being all day, like all. So you got to understand the mental level and understand what you looking at when you see what you see. Now you got to understand, you can skip in Ascent. Some men will have the knowledge and the know-how. And a planet can become a black hole. It doesn't necessarily have to ascend to be a star. It can go straight to a black hole. You know what I'm saying? A man can ascend from a man and go straight to being a sun. Literally, living deity of a sun. So you have to understand that. A planet can become a black hole, depending on the size of the planet. Some men, knowledge and their light will be so bright and big that they can just come and become straight and go back to the source from that point, because this shit is deep. It's all about knowledge and knowing. This is how big your sperm and your spirit becomes, how bright and light it becomes. So when you hear them speaking of, oh, the soul was bright and light, they speaking of the stars and the things you see in space. Because these things were you at some point deep back in time. And they have ascended from what you are now all the way to that. Just like when a baby looks at you, it's the same as when you're looking at a star. He's looking at years in advance of what he's going to become. And you're looking at lives in advance of what you will become. So you got to understand that. Now, y'all, I want y'all to understand how life works, so y'all can understand that all small things make up one complete life. So you have to understand all these things I just broke down to you are literal. Living beings. This is not allegory talk like you're used to. Now I'm going to break it down to you so that you can grasp some sort of understanding, hopefully. Now, a pregnant woman, when the sperm goes into the egg and the sperm is inside the pregnant woman, the sperm, and it's going through the fetus and all of that process, it can only see the innards of the woman, the heart, the liver, the organs, things like that. That's all the fetus can see. It cannot see the living being that it's in, that walks around and moves around. So now if a man could go into the womb and speak to a fetus, and it asks the fetus, and the fetus asks that man, where is my mother? All you could tell a fetus is she's everywhere. The same way you hear when people say God is everywhere. This is likened to that. The fetus wouldn't grasp that. What you mean she everywhere? Where is she? I can't see her. You're inside of her. This is why you can't see her. And this is how all life is. So the fetus, the organs, all of this different life that is living and has its own life, that is inside that woman, makes up that deity or that being that is the woman that walks this earth and gives birth. Just like a man or whatever. Not the birth part, but you know what I mean. That's what makes up the being. Now, the baby can't see the being until the baby comes out of the veil of darkness. It is then born and becomes the being. But a baby and grows up, and now it can look eye to eye with its mother or father, and it is the same and are equal to that being. So that's what this is. You have to understand, when you leave the body and you're on the process to becoming a star or a planet or whatever, these are living beings. We are the cells and atoms inside these beings. The trees are the veins and volcanoes' hearts, and all of these different things are the innards of the being. We can't see the being because we're inside of it, just like the fetus is. So you have to understand that when we come out the body and we get to see what the being is, then you can understand. Then you can understand, okay, this being is a part or the innards of another being that walks, runs, and does whatever it does in its life and talks. All the planets, the sun, that's the innards of another deity. That's his innards. And this shit goes on and on. The galaxy, so on and so on. So what you're looking at is, when you're in Earth, you're inside the innards of Earth. You're in the innards of a deity. So this is why when NASA's showing you pictures of things out, and stay looking in the innards of a being and do not understand that. It's just like a baby or a fetus or a zygote, embryo, whatever is inside the innards of a belly, looking at the heart, looking at the brain. They like, oh, that's the sun. It's the same thing. You can't grasp it because you're not at that level of life yet. Just like a baby can't grasp what the hell the brain and the heart and all this shit it's seeing is. It's like planets to it. It don't know what that is until it comes out of it to know, oh shit, I got the same thing in me. It's the same process. So when you ascended in life from that sperm, and you got to remember, it's all the sperm. If you Google a picture of, show me the image of the process of a star being born. Google that. The process of a star being born. Images. It'll look like you would suspect sperm to look like on a much larger scale. And you have to understand, that's what the sperm is. It's in you, developing just like your body is. So that little yolk of sperm that you started as, that went into the egg, and the egg developed into the embryo and then into the fetus, still the egg. The sperm is still inside, developing too. So when you look at the process of a star being born, and you see how that nebula looks so much like sperm would look if you was a humongous being, a humongous deity. So we have to really understand everything is living and alive. And when you're looking at a star, you're looking at the future. When you're looking at a baby, you're looking at your past. And you have to understand how everything coalesces with everything. This is why we be talking about aliens and all these things. We don't have a very good understanding of things. Physical, unphysical, the balance of things, the different forces, principalities. We don't understand how these are real living things. So if you can't grasp that the planet is a living being and you're only in the innards and can't see it, if you can't grasp that, then you can never grasp how a black hole is God and how you will return to that after this long journey and become your own universe, which is the innards of a living deity, and all that different life and different stars and planets and all that different stuff is just the innards of an even larger deity who moves around with deities his size in his liking. This just like you do. You move around with human beings that got the same innards as you, just like that deity, which we would call the universe, which is just his innards. Everything we call in space, what we call it, the solar system, that's just the deity's innards. We have to understand that. This takes lives of ascending to grasp. I do not know why I grasp it now, but I grasp it now. Grasp it with me. It's very easy. You can read your Bible or anything and it'll make a whole different kind of sense to you. You will actually understand it. You'll understand anything once you get tapped in and understand what I'm trying to explain to y'all. What life truly is, what death truly is, what a spirit truly is, what you truly are. Your religion and all that just have you enslaved. Just like a moon. You will be a moon. You will be dark nebula. A lot of us are walking around this earth now as dark nebula in the darkness. No understand it. How many of us truly really understand that sperm that niggas beat off and shit, that is what you started as, and that is what you still are, and it's developing in you. That is what your whole life force is. The sperm. When you hear them talking about, oh, they distracting melanin, but we talking the sperm. The sperm never left the egg. Understand that. When the sperm went into the egg and the egg started to break apart, because every process of ascending in life is the same thing. And it's just like that beginning process when when the sperm went into the egg broke apart. Some of the eggs became the placenta, and the egg that the sperm went into becomes the fucking fetus. You dig? So you got to understand that. The sperm went into the egg, it never left the egg. The egg never left. It's the same thing you looking at now. This is just the egg developed. The sperm's still inside. Where the sperm went? Why you never asked yourself that? Why scientists do all this research and they know everything I just said, and it never dawned on them to say, yo, the sperm is the spirit. Mind you, you get a sign of it. All you young niggas sitting in the bathroom beating off, you get a sign that the sperm that you started as is still in you, and that is you. Every time you beat off. That is how you know that. But we so lost in darkness. We so lost in the books. Following men. When one man with real truth come along, we won't follow him. We lost. Like, oh no, that's too good. Where's the bullshit talk? Do I have to follow the light when I die? See, we need that. We can't just have straight real talk shit like I just gave you. That's straight knowledge, real facts, no bullshit, no add-on, no nothing. I totally understand this. The hardest part for me is figuring out how can I break it down to y'all, because I literally see this. So this is how I get my understanding, through sight and vision, not from books and men. Now, how do I explain it to the people? But it always comes out simple, because when somebody ain't telling you something, or you ain't reading something and you seeing it yourself, it's always easier to relay the message when it's coming from that perspective, because that's that real truth. And that's how you can explain that to anybody. And this is how I do that so easy. Because it's all from seeing and observing and just understanding. You got to be in a humble perspective to really look at sperm and say, damn, I get it. That shit is real. Then you niggas wouldn't be running around here having sex and doing a whole bunch of dumb shit. Because it gets so much deeper. It's a lot of things we doing that's so detrimental. But we don't understand these things I just broke down. We don't understand unphysical and physical. We basically don't understand nothing I've been bringing. And this is why I'm bringing it. Because we so far left with it. If we understood these things, a lot of things we talk about and read about, and we wouldn't even pay these things any mind. A lot of questions y'all have, y'all wouldn't even have no more. A lot of things y'all are doing to acquire knowledge y'all wouldn't even do no more. Y'all would realize that's foolish. I understand now. So let me just help y'all to get an understanding. Understand you living within a deity that's alive just like you. You got to have respect for where you're at, because where you're at is a deity. It's just like a baby got to have respect for what it does inside the belly. Even though it don't know. If it did, it would, because a baby would know, damn, all this lady got to do is just get rid of me and still live her life. So don't think Earth can't do the same. You'll return back to the goddamn mighty all and do all this shit all over again and start out as sperm. You got to understand this. I'm trying to give y'all real talk, real true understanding. I'm going to come back. I'm going to break down some more things. I'm trying to guide y'all through as smooth as I can. It's your boy Solace. Oh, to all other teachers, we need to get unified, y'all, man, and start getting the followers to unify, so we can start doing real things, man, and bringing this slaved out system we living by down. And I ain't talking about war. I'm talking about that by like that, because we all got it, man. Smartest people on this planet. We just ain't paying attention. We ain't thinking. We so used to being led and told. We done got adjusted to that, to the point where that's embedded in the teachers and the leaders too. It's not embedded in me. Let me be a guide. It's your boy Solace. Jesus Christ. Oh boy.